I'm sick of this COVID-19 thing. What even causes this?
Well, COVID-19 is caused by viruses.
Viruses, where are they?
Viruses are basically bundles of genetic material protected by a layer of protein. You can think of the protein as being a skull and then the genetic material inside being the brain. So, a virus is basically bundles of genetic material surrounded by a protein layer called the capsid, and the capsid is also surrounded by another layer called the envelope. Well, what is genetic material, you ask me? Well, it's sort of like a rule book for the cell. For example, it tells you what your hair color is, or your eye color, for example, or even stuff like height sometimes.
Then that's how they are. How do they infect us?
Well, it actually has to do with the spikes of the virus. Now, the protein shell of the virus is called the capsid. It has several spikes coming out of it. Now, these spikes play a very important role at what the virus is about to do. Now, these spikes' job is to connect to a cell's receptors and then fuse into them.
Wait, receptors? Fusing? What are they?
Well, receptors are basically the protruding parts of the cell. They use it to connect with other cells' receptors to share information. Now, viruses, they're clever. They're gonna exploit this trick. Now, remember, the spike's job is to find and attach itself to a cell's receptors. Once the virus finds a cell with the correct receptor, they're gonna go inside of the cell because of their very small size. Once inside the cell, the virus releases all of its genetic material. Then, after all of the genetic material has been released, they make its way into the cell's ribosomes.
Ribosomes? I don't know what they are.
Well, basically, ribosomes are like tiny factories inside your cells. They produce proteins and copy the cell's genetic material. Now, the genetic material of the viruses take control over the cell's ribosomes, forcing it to make copies of the virus. The ribosomes of the cell cannot stop producing more copies of the viruses. It'll keep on doing it until the cell bursts out. Because the cell bursts, now all of the cells around it will be infected by the virus because there are way more copies of it now.
Wait, so viruses are alive?
Well, no, not quite. To answer that question, we must first look at the definition of living. There are two things that must be true in order to say that something is living. The first thing that must be true is that whether the object can be born and can die. Well, a virus can get replicated and it dies. So I guess that's a mark on that one. The next thing that must be true is whether the object can metabolize by itself. Now here's where we see the problem with viruses. They don't use energy, nor do they store energy. The way they move around is by wind or by some other environmental cause. The only time they ever use energy is when they're replicating, and even that is not their energy. They're just using the cell's own energy on the cell's own ribosomes to create more copies of the virus. Because it does not satisfy this requirement, scientists everywhere agree that viruses are not living. Now, to summarize all we have learned today, we first learned that viruses are not living. We found out that viruses are just bundles of genetic material wrapped around a protein shell. We call this protein shell the capsid. They infect cells by going inside the cells, releasing their genetic material, and controlling the ribosomes.
Oh, now I know more about viruses.
If you like our video and want to see more, please subscribe to the channel.
And also like and share the video.
That's all.
Thanks for watching.
Bye!